afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another exercise video. We haven't done one in a while. This is a corker today. I say it all the time, but it is a corker because it really does suit horses of all abilities, all ages, riders of all abilities and ages, and you can really adjust it to suit whatever you're working on at the time. Now I'm going to put up a picture on the screen and kind of draw out the floor plan of this exercise because, as we know, my arena is quite small and I've had to squidge it in literally, so you definitely want to do this exercise a little bit bigger than how I have done it. But it's great if you are a dressage rider and you want to do raised poles and you just want to work on sort of getting some activity into your horse's movement, so working on your horse's core strength, working on their balance and their rhythm, and getting them to use those hind quarters. But if you're a show jumper, this is a great exercise if you want to work on your horse's rhythm, especially in the canter. You can have jumps, you can go without jumps, you can do anything you want with this exercise, and it can suit whether you event, whether you do dressage, whether you do jumping, whether you just want to do a little bit of schooling with your horse. We cover all bases. So I am on Coop today, and with Coop I'm going to start off with raised poles, and then I'm going to build it up to having a few little jumps in it, so I'll video it at each stage. But like I say, really you could do this whole exercise and walk if you wanted, and it would be super beneficial. However, you could also have quite big jumps if you fancied it and you had a big enough space in your arena. You could do bounces, you could do the lot, you could really mix it up to suit you and your horse's needs. So I'll just get into it. Hoping the previous clip makes sense of how to set up this exercise. Obviously you can change it up to suit your size of the arena or what you want to work on, but simply a 20-meter circle with poles one end, a jump in the middle running along one side, and then a set of fan poles at the other end. And simply you can have these all on the floor, you can raise them, you could have all jumps if you want. It completely depends on what you're working towards with your horse and at the level they are at. So I always start by walking over poles just because I think it's very good for your horse. And you can see now with Corporal I've popped him up into trot, and again I'm just really working on his suppleness, making sure he's using his hind quarters, working on his core strength, looking at his balance and his rhythm as he's going over the poles, making sure that I keep a nice rhythm as I'm going round. But this is also part of a really nice warm-up for him. While I was just moving one of the fences out to give myself a little bit more space, Corporal thought he'd go and stand by the camera because obviously he's a handsome devil and he wants you to all see it. Here you can see we've got the exercise from a different angle, and you can see here I've just started on the 20-meter circle at the top of the school, so making sure that I have a nice balanced rhythm over each of the pole, that the rhythm doesn't change, and that I try and keep Corporal soft and round over his back, making sure that he's bending round my inside leg and that I'm using my outside leg to help keep the rhythm going, to stop him drifting. And here you can see as I'm coming out of the 20-meter circle, I then come nice and straight to the little fence, again trying to make sure the rhythm stays the same. I then have some fan poles that you can't quite see down there that helps get Corporal back on his hocks, stops him from rushing and lengthening his stride before changing the rein and then getting back onto the 20-meter circle of poles. So really working on the quality of your canter, especially if you're somebody who jumps. This is such a good exercise if you've got a strong horse or a horse that tends to like to rush in between its fences. Here again from another angle you can see the fan poles I've got at the bottom here. These are a little bit raised off of the ground, but you could have a jump in the middle of them if you wanted. And again, the great thing with this exercise is you can keep changing the rein, because I hate having to get off and adjusting an exercise just so you can jump it each way. So this exercise you can keep changing it up, which is brilliant. I jumped off once again to raise my little fences, and Corporal thought this was a great opportunity to entertain himself by running rings around me. Literally, he did several laps off the school thinking he was hilarious. So moving on now, you can see I've put the fences a little bit bigger, not too much. And again, just working on the balance of my canter, making sure that I'm using my seat and my body weight. Here you can see he has a bit of a big jump and then completely ignores me over the poles. But the fan poles really did help me there because it stopped him from getting any faster. I just added a little circle in the corner to just regain some control and some balance, soften him and down again. But that's why the poles are so handy. If you do have a horse that tends to be a little bit cheeky over the fence and maybe picks up speed afterwards or tries to cut the corners, then the fan poles at the bottom will really help you out. Especially I sometimes find when I'm jumping that I just wing it around the corners, or I'm not really focused on the turns, and this can really help with this exercise because you have to keep thinking about your riding, you have to keep thinking about each turn, the setup, the balance. It never lets you go to sleep, this exercise, that's for sure. But pole work is great for your horse's fitness. However, it is strenuous, so build them up slowly. Even walking over the poles can be hard for some horses. It's also a great way to sharpen up the rider. For me, I find exercises like this really make me think a bit quicker. They get me looking ahead earlier, turning with my body, and just being that little bit sharper in my riding, which I need to be. They also help horses that tend to fall on the forehand. So if you've got a horse that tends to maybe jump a fence, goes a little bit flat, poles like the fan poles and the little jumps that break up this exercise will really help get your horse to sit back on their hind quarters. Also great for their footwork, getting them to think that little bit quicker. Do you want to make your pole work that little bit more exciting, a bit more entertaining, and do you want to test yourself as a rider? Have you thought about doing a pole exercise with just one hand on the rein? Yeah, just one hand. I tried this. I've seen a few pros do it, especially jumping some really tricky lines at home, and it is such a great way to highlight your weaknesses as a rider and also just really good fun. I won't lie, I had an absolute ball doing it. A little disclaimer, if you're on a young or novice green horse when it comes to jumping, or as a rider you are not the most confident when jumping, I wouldn't suggest doing this. So I had just one hand on the rein, and oh my goodness, the things it highlighted for me was that my outside leg is useless. My outside leg just didn't work for this. It really needed to be on all the time, helping with turning corporal, helping keep the rhythm, and I just found it just didn't do that job. So definitely need to work harder on my outside leg. The other thing is that I would say that I'm not a particularly handy rider. I think I've got quite soft hands. However, I rely on my hands too much. When it comes to control and steering, when I took away that power from my hands, it made me have to be so much sharper with my body and using my half halt through my seat, because suddenly I had to sit up taller, I had to sit deeper into the saddle and make corporal weight from my seat. When it came to turning, I had to make sure that I was looking ahead quicker, that I was using my body to turn, because I didn't have the ability to just rely on my hands, which is what makes this such a great exercise.
Oh my gosh, I'm all red-faced, but oh my god, that was so much fun. I wasn't expecting that to be as fun as it was, but it really highlighted that I don't use my legs. Like, when you take away one of your hands when it comes to jumping and doing an exercise like that, you suddenly realise your legs are not working anywhere near enough. Especially my outside leg. Every time my outside leg was just wobbling around, doing sod all, to be honest. I think the only reason we actually managed to get around even half of that exercise was because me and Coop have been together for 18 years. So we do know each other inside out. And I think I was sort of sending him messages like, now turn, and shouting at him, and bless him, he's such a legend. But yeah, that was a good exercise. I like that. Might do that more often. It really woke me up that I just wasn't riding very well. Maybe worth giving it a whirl. I mean, maybe don't do it on anything that's young and sprightly and likely to bolt with you. But I think for an older horse that you can trust, it shows how much your legs aren't working, and how much stronger your seat needs to be and all that. Oh, I loved that.
Quickly drawn out another plan, which is very similar to the one that I did, but I've just added in 2 more fences. So fence 8 and 5 are added in, just meaning that you can do the exercise on both reins back and forth, and you've got a few more fences there, making it that little bit harder.